I'm Aaron from PhoneDog.com, and what do you do when you have two awesome Android phones, but two very different Android phones? You throw them in a dogfight. It's the Samsung Galaxy Nexus versus the Samsung Epic 4G Touch. It's dogfight time. Woof! On to part two, and first of all, special thanks to Best Buy Mobile for hooking us up with a bunch of phones like this for use in our One Paw Bandit game, so you can win those on the site. When you go to Best Buy Mobile, you'll walk out working. They're going to help you set up your email, your web on either of these devices. When you walk out that door, your camera settings are set up. It's pretty easy at Best Buy Mobile. So Galaxy Nexus, Epic 4G Touch on Sprint over here, and let's go ahead and jump into the speed test, for example, because hey, that's pretty fun, right? So we're going to do some speed tests on both of these devices. They're both turned on 4G on their respective networks. 4G LTE over here on Verizon, and then of course WiMAX over here on Sprint. So we're going to say I agree over here, and then we're going to go ahead and get this one loaded up as well. Let's see, looks like we're on Shelby, North Carolina. So let's make sure this one's loaded up on that as well, Shelby, so we can do kind of a fair test here. And we're going to go ahead and begin those tests right now and take a look at some of the network differences between 4G LTE on Verizon and then on WiMAX as well over on the Sprint side. So you can see over here, running at about 28 megabits per second on the download on Verizon. Now it is important to note, just outside of my office, I do have a Verizon 4G LTE cell site on one of the hotels. So, those speeds are pretty high, about 10 megabits per second versus 1.5 megabits per second over here. And upload looks to be a little bit on the slow side over here on the Epic 4G Touch. So that's something to keep in mind. I am beside the cell site, but still, I've seen speeds consistently between 5 to 12 megabits per second, even in areas where I have 1 or 2 bars of service on Verizon. With Sprint, kind of seen it range between about 1 megabit per second in the Charlotte area, up to about 5 to 6 megabits per second on a really good day in certain areas where it performs really well in the city, like if you're familiar with Charlotte's South Park area. I've seen some speeds that are a little bit higher, but that's what you're going to get. And I think I've deleted all the results since then. Those are all 3G results, but yeah, that's only 4G result I have on the phone right now. Quadrant standard as well, because it's going to be interesting to see. I don't think quadrant standard is quite optimized for an ice cream sandwich, because the speeds I've been seeing are pretty low in comparison to Android 2.3 and the Exynos processor over here. But let's talk a little bit about battery life. Now you get a 1,850 milliamp hour battery over here and a 1,800 milliamp hour battery in the Epic 4G Touch. I've been really impressed with both of these, at least in the battery life front. I haven't had a terrible battery drain issue on either of these. With moderate use, you're going to make it through most of the day with texting, emailing, calling, doing things like that. If it's heavy use, be sure to carry a charger. It's important to note though, Samsung devices, at least in my experience, take a little bit longer to charge. So if you live off of a 10 or 15 minute charge, like most of us do, it's a little bit, you're going from meeting to meeting, or you're at a trade show, something like that, it's going to be a little bit harder to use, but still grab a spare battery if you do need it. But with moderate use, I think you'll be fine with both of these. So 3,689 over here on the Epic 4G Touch. That Exynos processor just incredibly smooth, and while that's loading, 3,689, I'll tell you, you can see it's just incredibly smooth, easy to use, very responsive. And I've seen, it's funny because I always, kind of criticize Android for lag. It's one of those, you kind of see the stutters, kind of see the lag a little bit in Android. I don't see that on the Epic 4G Touch, or very rarely do I see it, I should say, on the Epic 4G Touch. Exynos just really does a killer job. They've really optimized it with TouchWiz 4.0 as well. Also, I'll say call quality pretty decent on both of these as well. Earpiece is nice and loud, 1,671 over here in the Galaxy Nexus. So 1,671 over here, and then I think 3,659 over here. So let's take a look at just some of these applications, because I want to show you how different these can look when you're dealing with stock Android versus not only an older version of Android, but also with a skin installed. So you can see ice cream sandwich over here. You get 3 little tabs up top, and then you'll notice these little dots all around. You'll see them down here sometimes, you'll see them up here. That's the equivalent of a right click, or the equivalent of your menu button, since you no longer see menu here in the button shortcut list. So I can go over here and click that and see settings, for example, easily access those. But here's ice cream sandwich, nice big buttons, easy to press, and then you got your call button, your search button, and of course those on-screen buttons stay there as well. Now the only time those go away, you see it go away when you listen to media, or when you watch like a YouTube video, for example, or something of that nature. You watch a movie on your phone, you'll notice the buttons go away, so you get the full 4.65 inches dedicated to media and entertainment. Now up here you get tabs as well, logs, contacts, favorites, and groups. So you can see contacts, for example. We'll bring these up just so you can see the difference here. We're at Phone Dog Aaron, which this is a demo number. That's not my real number, but you can see, didn't mean to call it, my bad. Let's go into contacts, and we're going to scroll right down through here so you can see what the contact lists look like. So there's a little bit of a difference there. And again, you'll see that menu button there, favorites button, and then the phone number as well. Now here I get history, activities, and media as part of TouchWiz 4. That's a pretty nice touch. And then of course over here, I can easily scroll back and forth between the two. So I've got the phone there, and you can see what I can do over here. Edit, share, delete, set ringtone, send all calls to voicemail, which I can do over here as well. But shows the company that I work for, shows that demo phone number, and then shows the picture on both. I do like the way the picture is displayed. I also like when you go into the settings over here, go back to the phone, you can see that picture is displayed up top in kind of a tile format, which is pretty nice. So you've got that touch as well. So just a different input, different way it looks, or different kind of format. One thing that is the same though, the Android market on both of these devices. So you've got Android market, it's been improved. Now you can access apps, music, books, and movies from these devices. And I'm not going to spend too much time in this because you can see previous videos. But again, just the transition effects on the Galaxy Nexus are a little bit slow, as you can see. Whereas over here, near instantaneous, not that time, but near instantaneous usually with little to no lag. So not going to spend too much time in that because we've got some other things to cover, but I did want to show you that so you can get an idea as to what it looks like. Now over here you get Samsung's Media Hub, you get Social Hub as well. So you get the ability to come over here to Media Hub and rent movies. Let's go in here and see if it'll let me in. I don't think there's an update that's required, but you can see, let's hope not. Come on now, load up. TV, movie store, music store, and more. So you can access movies, you can rent movies, rent TV shows, and you can do that through Android market now as well. So I'm interested to see how long Samsung's Media Hub will hold on since that option is now there, and perhaps it's not affecting it as much as we think. So that's something to keep in mind. Now you get a lot of free Sprint stuff, and it's included in your plan on Sprint. You get NASCAR Sprint Cup Mobile, Sprint TV, Sprint Music Plus, Sprint Radio. At least basic versions of these are covered in most Sprint price plans. So that's something to keep in mind as well. You do get a nice little value there, and then you get, of course, visual voicemail as well, which is nice because it's free on the Sprint side. It's $2.99 per month on the Verizon side. So if you're somebody like me, you really like those additional features, sure, you can get some alternatives in the Android market. But hey, $2.99 versus free, you really can't beat that. And to all those that ask, this is Simi Clock Widget, S-I-M-I Clock Widget. I downloaded that from the Android market. It is a free download. So it's a nice little feature as well. Let's take a look at the camera. 5 megapixels over here, 8 megapixels over here, and both shoot video at 1080p. So we're going to bring over, let's take a picture of, what are we going to take a picture of tonight? Not my wallet, that's no fun. Let's take a picture of this highlighter over here on my desk. Somebody brought up that I should do a desk tour sometime, and to that I think I completely agree. We should do a desk tour at some point. Now you'll notice on both of these devices, no physical camera button, it's all on screen, but one thing I will give the Galaxy Nexus credit for, the camera's really not the best. The 5 megapixel camera is fine when you're in well-lit situations like this, but you're taking a quick picture, you're outside, it's kind of dark, it's not going to be the best one for you. The 1080p is decent, but again, not the best. And you can see your settings here, camera settings, easy to access flash, white balance, and more. Then I can of course switch between gallery, video camera, and more easily from right there, and then zoom in and flip the camera around if I so desire. So we're going to take a picture of that, wait for it to focus in. You're going to see how fast the shutter is, incredibly fast. And thanks to that Super AMOLED HD display, it really takes a decent picture, and it looks decent on the display. But again, we're in a really well-lit situation, so I don't want to kind of give you any ideas outside of what you can expect. So 5 megapixel camera, pretty decent. Now this one has an 8 megapixel camera, and it does go to the Epic 4G Touch. Just a phenomenal camera over here, and you really see it not so much when you're doing what I'm doing right now, but more when you're doing stuff in low lit situations. You're outside, it's kind of dark, or sunset. You really see it in those types of situations. So there it is right there. Again, very easy. Super AMOLED Plus makes it look beautiful, and you can see even when I'm zoomed in, easy to see the text as well. So if you're looking for a quick shutter, you take a lot of fast pictures. The shutter is a little bit faster on the Galaxy Nexus, but over here, a far better picture, not only in an area like this, but particularly when you're doing something outside or where the sun's not as bright or more. But you're going to notice the custom TouchWiz interface here with a camera button to flip it around, and then over here for your settings and more. A little bit different from the stock ice cream sandwich look and feel. And that's something to keep in mind. One thing I did fail to mention as well, notification light down here, which is kind of a point of contention for a lot of potential Samsung buyers. They're like, I want my notification light. That's kind of a staple of Android. Well, when you get an email or a text message, there's a cool little notification light that appears right here, and it appears in the Nexus color. So that's a nice touch. You do get that benefit, whereas over here, you do get a notification light as well, but it's up top. And it's a little bit more square. So this one kind of falls more in line with the Nexus look and feel, whereas up here, this is actually one of the few Galaxy S2 devices that comes with a light. I'm not going to lie, I've reviewed so many Galaxy S2 devices that I actually forgot that this one came with a notification light, and I just corrected myself mid-video, but fooled you, so you didn't think that I corrected myself mid-video. How do you like them apples? No, I'm just kidding, but seriously, a lot of them don't. A lot of the Galaxy S2 series does not. This one does. Is one of the few that does, and it's right there but still pretty cool down here. It's a nice little circular notification light, and I've been pretty impressed with it. So, you know, both of these devices are really going to appeal to people that want a really fast, you know, great high-end Android device. I did see a little bit more lag over on the Galaxy Nexus side, and kind of unexplained lag, particularly when you're dealing with stuff like this, and it's a slow transition, which it seems to have sped up a little bit, but still a slow transition from portrait to landscape, and you're like, come on now, this is a high-end device. Whereas over here, nice and easy transitions, even if they are a little bit blocky, and a fantastic processor. Exynos processor is absolutely fantastic, but it does little weird things like this, but that's just a phone being a phone. But you could tell, fantastic processor as well. So it's all going to depend on which one you prefer, but the Dogfight winner, based on features and overall usability, is the Epic 4G Touch. TouchWiz 4.0 is great over here, and I tell you that for a couple of reasons. One, this device is most likely going to get upgraded to Ice Cream Sandwich in the near future. When it does, the spec list is going to be a little bit better than the Galaxy Nexus. So if you can hold out, go for the Epic 4G Touch. If you just can't wait for Ice Cream Sandwich, or that's the sole reason why you're looking at the Galaxy Nexus, obviously buy this. But when you really look at the specs, a dual-core TI OMAP processor, 5-megapixel camera versus, you know, your Exynos 1.2 gigahertz over here that performs a little better, and an 8-megapixel camera. The specs are a little better over here, but obviously it's on Sprint, and it has Android 2.3 instead of Android 4.0 over here. So if you're on Verizon, going with something else, pull that away so whoever's calling doesn't get their number displayed on the camera. You're going with, you know, 4G LTE, you want that HD display, go with the Galaxy Nexus. If you're looking for a device like this, I'm going to pull this away so the number doesn't pop up. If you're looking for a device with a nice big display, with an easy to use user interface, and an awesome camera, you can't go wrong with the Epic 4G Touch. Much more coverage to come on PhoneDog.com with both of these devices. Be sure to like us on Facebook, Facebook.com/PhoneDogAB. Follow me on Twitter as well, PhoneDog_Aaron, and on Facebook at Facebook.com/PhoneDogAB. Let me know what you think, which one should have won on any of those social media mediums. Thanks so much for watching, and as always, we'll see you next time.